Welcome to X-Men Evolution, episode 39 of Cyclops is Waiting for Me, an X-Men animated recap podcast. I'm Rod. If things sound a little different today, it's because we're using new technology, and it just took me about 20 minutes to figure out how to get the live stream chat thingy work. Don't worry about it. So you'll be able to see this if you're on YouTube or Facebook. Doesn't Spotify also have a video thing too? We'll figure that out, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think we messed with it on Spotify.
So when does this episode go live? Is it the middle of September?
I think this is like September 11th-ish.
Okay, so in a couple days, you all will see why we're testing this out. Me personally, have a podcast that I've been working on with Mike, who none of you know is here, and but I've been working on it for months, and you'll see it in a couple days. Hopefully, if everything goes correctly. But we're testing it here because why not?
And I'm JC, and Rod is trying to give me an aneurysm tonight. Cyclops is Waiting for Me as our weekly podcast series. We are going and watching every single X-Men animated episode that we could find. This started with the original 1992 X-Men the Animated Series that was building up to the release of X-Men 97. Along the way, we also launched our companion show, the Xavier Files, with interviews with members of the community as well as voice actors from the series. And since Season 2 of X-Men 97 is now a ways off, we're going to be going back to our second half of our first watch-through of X-Men Evolution.
Some quick reminders. We're a recap show about a series that started over 20 years ago. There will be spoilers. If you don't want to spoil it for you, pause the podcast, watch the episode, and come back. And we're currently not sponsored by or affiliated with Marvel Animation, Disney, or Disney Plus in any way. Although I still hold out hope because they put out Deadpool and Wolverine, you know. So I don't know how much worse we can say.
Worse? No. But I will say in Fortnite right now, there's a little bit of a controversy with the player base because there is a Wolverine and Deadpool skin 2-pack.
Okay.
And the Wolverine skin will also unlock the Lego skin, but Deadpool does not come with a matching Lego skin, and I believe he's the only Marvel character that happens with.
Oh, okay. I don't play Fortnite, so I think actually you sent me, was it Cyclops you had?
Yeah, Cyclops with the Peelverine back bling.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's what that's what that was. It took me until you actually posted it to be like, oh, that's a Fortnite thing. I don't know what I thought it was otherwise, like an NFT or something.
It's definitely not an NFT.
Right.
It has more value than an NFT. But right now, I'm playing through the Battle Pass, which is the Marvel season, which is all themed around Doctor Doom. I have completed both of the Gwenpool unlocks, the War Machine unlocks, and now I'm halfway through Peelverine. They have two versions of him. They have the classic outfit, and then they have the gray and black X-Force outfit.
Oh, nice.
And because we're on video today, I'm going to be drinking. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Cyclops IWFM Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Twitter, and Facebook. And, of course, make sure you are following us on your favorite podcast service.
Now onto the show. Today we're going to be talking about Season 3, Episode 9. I said that weird. Titled Under Lock and Key. We're doing great.
Thank God it's on video and we can't edit it the way that we used to.
November 30th, 2002. It currently sits at a 7.7 star rating on IMDb. So this one actually had a previously on.
It was a weird previously on, though, because the previously on was only like 3 seconds, and then this show likes to transition into new content. And I thought that was the end of the other episode that Mesmero had previously been on. That wasn't. That was new footage.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, it's really weird.
Oh, see, I thought it transitioned with Gambit.
Nope.
Well, here we are. Okay, so, wait. So Mesmero is like running from the Apocalypse Shrine. Oh, no, he's at the Apocalypse Shrine.
He's at the shrine.
So the previously on was the last episode with the concert and the Mystique and
the Rogue Freakout, yeah,
all that stuff. So so it looks very similar to a final scene in the last Mesmero episode where he's at like the altar of Apocalypse, I guess.
Mm-hmm. The doors, the locked doors.
The doors. Oh, that's right, because he stole the rings and stuff. Oh, man, it literally been like 5 or 6 months when we saw that episode.
Yeah.
So, and then
just remember, real kids watched it a year later, probably in real time. So we are actually at a better spot than they are.
But they had better memories.
We have TikTok brain now, so.
Yeah. And then the moment I realized that this was new footage was you see Gambit like running through the woods. It still throws me off when he talks and he has a not X-Men 92 accent of Gambit. And he's sneaking into, at first I thought was X-Mansion. Then I thought it was an art museum. And then when he finally gets in, you see it's Worthington, or, Warren Worthington's mansion. I don't know if it was Worthington Mansion. But I liked how he broke in because I saw him draw like the circle on the window. And I was like, what is he going to do with that? And I was like, oh, right. He can do the kinetic thing. But he just vaporized it. But
this had to be a conscious choice for them that when he's using his power to charge, it specifically was not that purple, fuchsia, etc., which has been in the comics for decades too. It wasn't just a 92 thing. So I think it was a very intentional thing for them to not utilize that.
Yeah, it's probably like 1% of what the power is, so it doesn't make noise or explode. Like he just kind of atomized it, right?
Yeah, it just disintegrated itself.
And then he breaks in, steals something that's on a pedestal. We don't quite know what it is yet, and runs off. He gets caught by Warren.
Before he gets caught by Warren, I do just want to point out, I loved how much effort they put into showing that this version of Gambit is absolutely a master thief.
Oh, yeah.
Just the way he's going about it, and he has these tools, and he's seeing the laser grid and stuff like that. It felt very Mission Impossible vibes.
Man, we loved our laser grids into the 2000s. They were everywhere. On the floor, chopping you up into little... ham pieces. Yeah. And he does get away from Warren, runs outside, and then gives the whatever artifact or whatever he stole
relic. They kept calling it relic.
Yeah, to what at the time, I don't know why they're trying to hide him. It was like a hooded figure, but it's like clearly this is Mesmero because we just saw him in the not previously on
the not flashback, yeah.
And then Angel, Warren Worthington, so his regular Angel, flies over because I guess Gambit thought he could outrun someone who could fly. And
he's under control, so Mesmero doesn't really care if Gambit gets away from him. He's just like, just get it to me and I'll peace out with it. So
yeah, and so then Mesmero knocks Angel out of the sky. Or no, Gambit knocks Angel out of the sky.
No, Mesmero drops him.
Oh, Mesmero does? Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then that's when it cuts to the intro. It was a very weird choice of where to do that cut. And I think it might have just been because of we got through it really quickly, but it was a very detailed cold open with the break-in and stuff like that. So it probably just felt like time where they're like, I don't know, we've been in the show for 5 minutes already. We should probably play the song.
Right. Before the kids think they're watching the wrong show. And then we're still at the same place when the credits end. And Magneto
by place, he means the street.
Yeah, outside of Warren's place. And Magneto shows up because when a metal fence is being bent around and stuff, that's going to be Magneto. And he takes the spikes out of the fence and makes a cage around Mesmero. And that's where in the conversation between Magneto and Mesmero, you get the context clues that Mesmero is mind controlling Gambit. And he's like, oh, you're bold for taking one of my own, which is a bold move. It's
it's pretty ballsy because you have more repercussions with Magneto's people than you do with Xavier's people. But then he also tries to use his psychic powers on Magneto. Magneto is not having it and literally tightens the fence around Mesmero at that point.
Yeah, Magneto's like, you must be new here.
Yeah.
And then Mesmero tries to
forces him to release Gambit too.
Yeah, because I think he starts trying to make Gambit, he implies that Gambit's going to attack him. Then he it is more than tightening, right? It's it starts going around his arms and stuff, the metal. I was going to say it is a cage at this point. And then Magneto straight up just takes the relic, and I think that's when he says, "Oh, the relic," and rips the ground out where the fence is, the cage with Mesmero, and just fucks off.
Yep. And Warren wakes up at that perfect time to be like, oh shit, I messed up, and then sees Magneto leaving.
His first thought is well, there's only one place I can go now.
Yep. And then we cut to one of my favorite X-Men tropes of all time, which is the X-Men playing sports together. Because that has happened every era of the X-Men, in the comics at the very least, has always had the softball, baseball, whatever the game was, of everybody on that field playing together. The animated series had more basketball, but the comics, it has been a baseball game.
Oh,
so
really?
I loved the moments from this.
And when I was watching it, because I was like, wow, this is a really drawn out part of the episode. I was like, oh, yeah, it makes sense. Like, all these kids are essentially being trained as child soldiers. Then you can kind of trick them into working out by playing sports.
And immediately they're like under the impression that there's a no power scenario, and that is broken, and Beast is pissed off by it, and they scream mutant ball, and everybody just uses their powers to an extent. They're just demolishing the field and nearly killing each other. Cyclops makes like a giant divot in the first baseline, like that.
Yeah.
Like people are crashing down. They're throwing the ball through bats. Like, it's absolutely chaos, and I loved every second of it.
Same. I love it. To me, whenever they have like sport, or specifically baseball things with like super powered people, it's 9 times out of 10 is a fun scene for me. It's literally the only thing I enjoyed from Twilight. I mean, granted, I only watched the first movie.
Still never watched it, but yeah.
I only watched the first movie, and then that was enough. But in the first movie, they play vampire baseball. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was a cool scene, because it's basically the same thing here, except everybody's just super strong. So they're like literally knocking, balls out of the park and stuff. And
it's just a home run derby, basically, at that point.
Yeah. So they're having like basically like a power melee, and they get interrupted.
I also noticed Boom Boom is there again. Like, so now it's Boom Boom is back at the Institute, I guess.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Because
she was there.
Yeah, because she originally ran off to the Brotherhood.
Right, and then she left the Brotherhood because they were a bunch of fuck-ups, but she was back with the team here, so...
Either continuity error, or they'll explain it later.
I think it was intentional. It felt too intentional for her to be in the last episode in the concert, and then at the field where it is literally only other students and staff there, so...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With the exception of Storm and Wolverine, every other mutant is, at the very least... there at the Institute, so
they're purposely bringing everybody together so we can do this. You were already feeling the team up happening, because they teased Apocalypse in the last episode again and stuff. And their mutant ball game, I guess it turned into, got interrupted by Angel. That's where I was reminded, this is just Angel, not Archangel yet. But there's another piece though. We have Apocalypse, we have Angel being introduced. All the pieces are there. And
well, not introduced. This is his second appearance. Remember, because he was the Angel in New York City in the previous season.
That's right, and that's literally been like almost a year now. So it's probably seen.
Probably.
That's fun. Then we go back to where is Magneto? I'm guessing still in his dome thing.
The dome in the snow, like by the ski chalet. I'm assuming he's still there, because nobody seems to. Kurt didn't do anything about it or tell people about it, apparently, after the whole Scarlet Witch episode. Yeah,
so, or wherever it may have moved to, or I don't know, somewhere. They never go outside of it.
I think it's legitimately like just in upstate New York, and Kurt is just an awful, awful member of the X-Men.
Yeah. And so we see that Magneto still has Mastermind there. I guess he's a permanent henchman. Magneto's crew now. And Mastermind is like getting information, I guess, telepathically from Mesmero. And he learns that this is called a Spider Stone, but it's only half of it, and the other half is elsewhere. It's just kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see later if we find out Warren had the piece on purpose. Because, we know in 92 he was obsessed with artifacts and things because of Apocalypse, and this is the other way. We don't know if he knows Apocalypse yet. Yeah,
I think it's just he's rich.
Yeah.
To be totally honest, I don't think there's anything deeper behind it.
Yeah, and rich people are weird.
It's true.
I say that because I already have plans. I've picked my weird thing. If I ever accidentally become rich,
Are you going to share it with us, or is it like we'll figure it out? There will be signs.
Oh, you'll figure it out. There's a couple friends I've told though that like I was like, just so you know, this is my weird rich person thing. So you know that I'm not just mentally ill. I may be at that point because of the wealth, but this was premeditated.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that it's not something like problematic or like damaging. It's just dumb.
Okay.
And then I can move on. That's my theory is like when you suddenly come across more wealth than you've ever like imagined, you just start doing dumb shit because you're not prepared for it. If you think about it ahead of time, my theory is if you pick your dumb thing at the beginning, then you can continue to be somewhat of a normal human being.
Okay.
Maybe I'll be wrong about that. Let's see. If you see me start doing a bunch of crazy stuff, probably didn't work then.
That platinum record went to your head, basically.
Right. Or in my head. Like I literally have it like installed. But
yeah, Mesmero is like he's got strong psychic defenses, which makes sense. But Mastermind is like, I could get there, you know, I need more time. And Magneto's like, well, there's not any more time. And then he's basically able to just like force his way through. And you realize he's there to unleash the world's most powerful mutant. And then they say, and Sabanur, Apocalypse. So I like that they dropped the full name in there too, and they didn't just jump straight to Apocalypse. Because I want to say in 92, we didn't get that name. We always just heard Apocalypse. So
yeah, that's right. Because it's more intimidating to English speaking superheroes.
2002, hell yeah,
right. And also, I think Apocalypse's real name is kind of gibberish, right? Like it's like vaguely sounding of something. Like I remember like reading about that. It's like, oh, that was like a comic book thing. So let's call him Apocalypse.
Hold.
Okay.
En-Sabanur translates from Arabic as the first one.
Oh, okay. So it is
the translation is grammatically incorrect as in Marvel it translates as the first one. However, it's grammatically incorrect and it actually means the first / morning light.
That's what I read. They were like, yeah, it's kind of like when a pop star gets a tattoo in a different language and it's like backwards or something. It's like it's just off.
So no, Rod, it was not gibberish. You were wrong.
It was just grammatically incorrect.
Yeah.
So
according to the Google AI search assistant.
Oh man, okay. So this reminded me of something. If you listened to the last episode, we were like looking for what the two songs were that band played. When I Google searched it, the freaking Google AI answered with this band called, I think it was like Mutant Ball, released their album X-Men Evolution and is available on SoundCloud. And I was like, that's an odd name of everything. And I clicked on it. It was a SoundCloud link for another X-Men Evolution podcast. So the AI had surmised that this SoundCloud link was the name of the band and that's where the song existed. And that the name of the album was the name of the show. So, you know, you can trust AI.
Do you remember what the other X-Men podcast is now? Or
it was it the Mutant Files? It was Mutant something. But hey, guys, if you're listening.
I was going to say, I don't recognize that one because we're friends with a lot of different X-Men podcasts from being in the community. But that is not one that stands out to me, at least right now.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with them before.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That was a tangent.
Yeah. At the mansion, the ex-kids are eavesdropping on Warren telling Xavier, Jean, and Scott about what Mesmero stole. He didn't know it was Mesmero. He was like, he identified the person. Like, you sure this guy's like, yeah, he's got a bunch of face tattoos. It's kind of hard to miss.
So I got to ask this. Did you at that point realize what was being set up for that moment in the episode?
No.
So this is the first time in any adaptation, I did confirm that. You had Charles, you had Scott, you had Jean, you had Beast, and you had Warren all in that room checking the files. And then Bobby, along with a few of the New Mutants kids, or it was like Magma and Kitty, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And they're like, he's like, oh, you're just checking them out. But it was like, oh, that's the original 6. That is Xavier and the original 5 students. And like the nerd in me was like, I was so excited when I saw that, and like it was all coming together for me.
And that makes sense because all the kids kind of fucked off, but Bobby stayed.
But Bobby stayed.
And he tried to like advocate for like, I can go with you guys. And they're like, you're a literal child and not one of the like elder students.
And you also don't listen to direction.
Oh, that's right. They said he didn't follow rules because he turned his baseball bat into ice. Mm-hmm. Which, you know, I'm actually kind of supportive of that. Like, remember there was that old story of like somebody doing a job interview and they noticed that the person they were interviewing like stole like a 25-cent packet of butter at the company cafeteria. And they're like, I'm not going to hire you because if you're going to steal like something that's like less than $1, what are you going to do to my company?
They will literally commit the Office Space crime.
Right. Burn it down.
Mm-hmm. I was saying stealing pennies of pennies and such.
Oh, gotcha.
Also burn it down.
And the stapler.
Yeah. But yeah, so I got very excited because I was like, I also for a second thought they were just going to tease it. And then when they left Bobby in the room behind, I was like, oh, that's such a good reference, but they're not going to give it to us.
But little did you know.
Yep.
And then back at whatever dome compound Magneto has, he
just escaped off camera.
Yeah, and we don't quite know what happened because there's no one else around and his powers don't work on Magneto. Maybe he did something to Mastermind, but that's like not likely, right? Because of who Mastermind is.
Yeah, I feel like if you're the guy with the psychic defenses, the other guy with the psychic defenses would be pretty hard to take down.
Yeah, and he left with the stone, so Magneto's like, well, it's time to go to London, which we now know they can do at light speed because of travel times. Previous episodes they went from like Nevada to New York back to like New Mexico or something.
Not New Mexico, Mexico.
Was it just Mexico? Like in an hour total. Mm-hmm. So that's fun. Then we're reminded, we go back to the mansion, like the med bay, ICU area or whatever, and we're reminded that Rogue is still recovering from literally living 1,000 lives the previous episode.
And having parts of her personality literally ripped out from her.
and other souls deleted. We don't know what happened.
Deleting souls. Yeah.
We keep coming up with metal band names.
Which we're not going to use because neither of us make metal music or music in general in my case.
But Kurt bamfs in and brings her food. And it was like enchiladas with black beans and then something disgusting. I can't remember the last thing.
I don't remember the last part, but I remember it was something that was not pleasant. And Rogue like makes a joke of like, oh, do you want me to like, I'm already sick enough. Do you want my like stomach to churn? And that's where we actually get the exposition that Storm and Logan are trying to find Mystique.
Yeah, because finally, they didn't let somebody go.
They're actually tracking her.
And we find out that Kitty is the cook and Kurt is the caretaker, which is I
mean, after what we've seen for Kitty's cooking, like, yeah, I don't blame Rogue for not wanting to eat. She's on a hunger strike, basically.
Right. Rogue is like, I want to live more than you think I do.
Yeah. And then there was the second thing. He was like, oh, well, I'll get her to make you this other thing. And it had anchovies in it. And I hear anchovies and I just get disgusted.
It was anchovies and jalapeno or something. I was like, oh.
I was already out at anchovies. Right. So
that sounds like, but you know what's funny is like that sounds like such a like a Y2K like boy meal. I don't know how to explain it. Like that sounds like something that would come in a Hot Pocket that some skaters would get. You know, because you wash that down with some Surge.
No,
like, I'm getting heartburn thinking about it.
I'm getting nauseous. So let's keep going.
So then we're in London, literally seconds later, which is actually probably their real-time transportation time. And the X-copter, is that what we kind of called it?
It's the X-copter. That they did call it that. Or the Velocity, right?
Oh, Velocity, that's right.
It had this super Y2K name.
Yeah, and it lands at the museum in the dead of night in London without a single soul noticing.
I just got to share that. I learned this. So it passes by the infamous clock tower. The bell is Big Ben, but the tower is not called Big Ben.
I did not know that.
No, because I knew there was London Bridge is actually always confused for Tower Bridge. Yeah. But I looked it up just for the heck of it, and it's not actually the Big Ben is the bell in the tower. So
there's this is a little anecdote, but any of my friends I went to high school with are gonna laugh at this because Where I grew up in Kokomo, there was I guess it's like the largest bull or something in the world. It's taxidermied in the park that I grew up in my childhood, and everybody called it Big Ben. And this is, small town Indiana. So we grew up thinking it's called Big Ben. And I get to college and people are like, Big Ben is not in Kokomo, Indiana. Like, Big Ben is in London. So the thing that our education system, they taught us this bull's name was Big Ben. It's Old Ben. But he is large. So they called him Big. Anyway, little anecdote. But hey, Kokomo folks. Now the rest of the world knows. We have a very large cow that's taxidermied in our public park right next to the children's playground. So
the Beach Boys really have to do a lot of explaining about taking people down to Kokomo then.
Yeah, also, it's the opposite of what they describe in the song. And I think I heard Brian Wilson say later, he's like, yeah, we just made it up. I'm like, that makes sense. Because I think that's what they did with our Kokomo too. Yeah. They showed up and they were like, nah, what can we get away with here?
But yeah, they land on a parking structure, and that's where Xavier is like, yeah, make sure our stowaway knows he's good to come out now. And we see Bobby has hid himself into like a food locker, essentially. Which I love that Xavier literally waited until they landed before letting him out, because he's like, no, let him be uncomfortable inside this locker.
Xavier likes pain for other people.
True.
And then we see the Magneto and his acolytes, the full team. Was it Colossus, Pyro, Gambit, Sabretooth. All literally break into the museum without any fanfare. They just break through the glass to the front without any alarms going off.
Then when the alarm does finally go off, one of the 3 security guards in the entire building automatically assumes that it is it's got a glitch and there's something wrong with the alarm. He's like, nobody breaks into our shitty museum.
Yeah, that's how I took it too. I was like, our museum is so uninteresting. That no one's breaking in here.
I love that he is playing solitaire too.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just like, do people actually play solitaire when they're bored? Or have our phones just ruined that game from ever being played again?
I only ever played it on a desktop because it was one of the 3 games besides Minesweeper.
Yeah, and I want to say when we started getting cell phone games that were that step above Snake, Solitaire was one of those ones that was free on almost everything. So
yeah, and I also technically I don't think I know how Solitaire works, because without the restrictions of the computer holding me to the rules,
actually making sure you don't cheat.
Yeah, I don't know how they were. I don't know if I make a mistake if I'm actually playing in real life. Not that I ever have. I would just move cards and be like, oh, let me do that. Cool. And then
I'm happy that this is the video episode, because sometimes I say I don't react verbally, but my face says it all, and you explaining how you don't know how to play solitaire is that perfect moment, Rod.
This was one of the Midwest shame things for me. Is even though I grew up in central Indiana, card games never clicked with me. And I'm not even talking blackjack or anything. I'm talking about Uno and solitaire, and bridge or euchre.
I don't know how to play bridge. I can't give you shit for bridge.
Yeah, or euchre. I think the big one that people.
The fuck is euchre?
I don't know how to play it, so I couldn't tell you. It's another card game.
Okay.
I actually don't know if people play it anymore. I mean, hey, Kokomo folks, if you're still listening, let me know if you still play euchre out there, because I never figured it out.
After Rod has insulted your giant bull,
I mean, we all insulted it. Even people who love that town. We're like, why is this dead cow still standing here?
Pyro is just a fucking giant nuisance, and he's chasing guards with a fire horse.
He likes his fire horses, right?
He likes fire animals just in general. This version of Pyro, way more fun than 92's Pyro.
Yeah, and did I see it right? It was specifically Ghost Rider too on the horse?
So I saw a few different theories of what that was supposed to be. There is a character that I'm blanking on the name right now, so apologies. But it did look like a specific Western style character, but a fire version of that character. So not necessarily a Ghost Rider, but some people did speculate that it was a Marvel reference.
Because I saw a skull at the end, so I was like, oh, is that Ghost Rider? But also I don't think the Ghost Rider lore had established there was writers throughout history by 2002. I think that was more of a 2010 thing, but I could be wrong on that. So gotcha.
I did see somebody say that it was the Red Skull, and that person's a fucking idiot.
They're like, you are now blocked from this X-Men group.
Yeah, no, that was a wiki editor. So
you're blocked from the internet.
Yeah, because it wasn't a Nazi skeleton, so it couldn't have been Red Skull.
And he comes back. He's like, I mean, it was technically a skull that was red.
Shut up.
He's like, actually. Yeah, I think the first Acolyte that gets taken out is Jean takes out Sabretooth, right?
Well, before we get to Sabretooth, there is the OG5 all walking together into the scene in the building, and Bobby specifically refers to them as the cool team, and that had to be somebody who knew and loved the original as that lineup. It was a little too loaded to be a coincidence for me.
That makes so much sense now, because I remember that now, but when he said that, I was like, oh, that's just like the teenager, of the group trying to, be fun.
But that was also the vibe of the original comic too, because Bobby was the youngest of the original 5.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
So he was still in the original 5 class, but Bobby was always known for being like an immature fuck up, even in that original dynamic. So
yeah, that's fun.
And we keep getting more of the back and forth with Beast being pissy with Bobby. I think it's even more funny now because it's such the exaggerated age difference where you have a guy who's literally old enough to be a teacher with the teenager. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that kept going. And then jumping back, there's a quick shot where Magneto sees Mesmero, proceeds to rip an elevator like as a weapon out of its shaft. And then we jump back to Sabretooth encountering Jean by the window.
Yeah, and then Jean just uses her telekinesis to kind of like neutralize him.
Yeah, just kind of like wraps him up really quickly in it.
And then that allows everybody else to enter the building. Mm-hmm. And then Magneto catches up with Mesmero and just like Little Shop of Horrors him with the elevator. Like, because it seemed to be like he was animating it to almost be like alive, right?
Yeah, it was like closing and opening like it was a mouth chomping.
So fun.
Yeah.
Suddenly Seymour comes on.
Yep. And then we get a little bit of back and forth fighting where different members of the Acolytes are getting taken out by the members of the X-Men too.
I'm glad you made the same note. Mine was like Acolytes and X-Men fight.
Yeah.
Next 5 minutes.
I did add the additional fuck this room in particular.
Oh, right.
Because that main room is just getting decimated by this fight.
Yeah, and the guards are like, yeah, nobody came here to look at these things anyway, so...
Yeah,
whatever.
Nobody's going to notice it's gone. They were already broken when they got here.
So after the X-Men and the Acolytes destroy this museum, the museum just rebrands as an art museum. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're a modern art museum now.
I did love Jean proceeds to try to call a team move with Beast where she tells him to tuck and roll, and then he does not roll when he is thrown.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that supposed to be like a variation on the fastball special?
It was a failed variation of the fastball special.
There you go.
Like, it still succeeded, but he didn't roll. He'd be barely tucked.
And there's our quote clip of the week.
Because phrasing.
Yep. Used as not appropriate. So Mesmero does find the other stone on another pedestal, mm-hmm. and Magneto's caught up with him, and the sentient elevator eats him, and Magneto locks him in the elevator. Then, this is another point I had to rewind. I thought Magneto did this, but he only really started moving the half that he already had, and then the two pieces just by themselves
because they were close enough to each other.
Yeah.
I wasn't 100% sure at first, and then as the scene continued to play out, it was like, oh, okay, that was it doing it by itself.
Yeah, and then it turns into a giant translucent spider.
Yep.
Which makes sense.
That's not a thing.
Right?
Yep.
And I was kind of confused on what this was. I guess it was supposed to be like the expansion of whatever materials that relic was into the spider, because Magneto seemed to reach out his hand and slightly affect it, hold it back just a teeny bit. I mean, obviously not enough, and it just kept running through walls.
Yeah, it was like a projection of it, but it was also solid because it was able to smash through walls and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, Magneto can't hold it back, and then Mesmero is just like, "Cool, I'm gonna leave right now."
Yeah, because he had that like the Mr. Burns like excellent, and then done.
Yep. Yeah, and it smashes through the wall. It jumps off the side. It like lands on a bunch of cars, and then basically he's just like, yeah, go destroy that, guys.
Colossus runs after it and gets knocked out. Then Sabretooth, then Pyro, all get knocked out. So they just start kind of picking away at the Acolytes. Then the spider burrows underground and makes its way to the river. Yeah, and because Gambit is like overseeing from above, and he's like, I can't do anything. It's underground. He just stops. He's like, oh, my kryptonite. Yeah. Meanwhile, Xavier had told the X-Men to capture it and protect it. He didn't want to jump straight to destroying, which doesn't seem like this version of Charles to me. I was going to say, how did he know that? Instinct. I think it was whatever Magneto's trying to do, go with the opposite, I think was his thought process. Fair. I've had former acquaintances and friends where I'm like, oh, you and me are a lot alike. And I'm like, I need to change as a person. You're like, this is the worst path if I'm doing what you're doing. Well, it's because I don't know if anybody else ever has this. Like, you meet someone, you're like, and you recognize the data of like, oh yeah, that's the same habit as I have, but you're seeing it from 3 feet away, and you're like, oh, I need to rethink my behavior. Yep. Mesmero gets caught by Xavier, who has a much stronger mental power than Mastermind does, because he immediately mind probes him, and then like there's like this tiger growl, there's these yellow eyes, and then he comes to, and Mesmero's gone. But he got the info he needed to from it. Yeah. But that was definitely like a standard like tiger growl that somebody got from an audio library, right? Yeah, it was like on a disc in the 2000s. Like that was half the disc. Right. Just a bunch of tiger noises. That person who sampled it isn't alive anymore, but they got the sounds. Oh yeah, that was definitely sampled in the 60s. Yeah. Yep. And then I just meant they got mauled by a tiger. But I can't even be mad at you for that. Jean tries to capture the spider thingy. And we're reminded she's not, Omega Jean yet. She's student, advanced student, but not quite like being able to entrap an ancient mystical relic spider. I don't know how to describe it. Nope, nailed it. No notes. Yeah, and it gets away. It goes through the river, and all of the X-Men are like, water, my kryptonite, except for Bobby. And he builds an ice bridge across, which... Everyone has very good traction on their shoes. Yeah, it's like it's also just projecting them. Yeah. And it's not like they have to run across the bridge. Yeah, yeah, they're like the tip of it is being like propelled forward by like him making the road behind them, I guess. Which is not accurate to how it's animated. And I've always had a problem with that. Because I've seen that where it's like, oh, they're getting pushed forward, but it's like, how does that work? Because if he's pushing it forward, then the shape would move with it. I don't know. There's something else for our buddy Scott to work on and get an aneurysm about from my suggestions. Or the new host of Film Theory. Get on the physics of animated. I thought you said, like, the way you worded it, I thought you were saying Scott was the new host of Film Theory. I was like, oh, Jesus, yeah. Or just give it to the new host of Film Theory to go, because if there's a wild answer to be found, I'm sure those guys could figure it out. So we know people there. Oh, sorry. Right. Anyway, the spider escapes into the city itself. I'm guessing still in London. Right into Piccadilly Circus. Oh, that's what it was. Okay. Yeah. Got it. And people notice now. No one noticed the break-in. But they noticed the giant spider. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, Piccadilly Circus, it was incredibly underpopulated considering how busy that intersection is. Right. Like, that is the Times Square of London, the Shibuya crossing of London. So there's only like 3 or 4 people and 3 cars there. So it was dramatically underpopulated, which, like I said, they spent their entire
crowd scene production budget in the last episode at the concert. So,
Nice. Yep. Yeah, and then Gambit drives a bus into the spider.
Psycho Gambit flips a bus onto the spider and then charges the bus that's flipped over.
I love how, at least in all the iterations of Gambit I've seen, they don't put any limits on his charging abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to spoil X-Men 97, but that is definitely true in that show too, if you haven't watched it.
There's no way somebody has made it this far into this show with us and not had 97 spoiled for them. I just got to say that.
I will say, my buddy Brian from Delaware is visiting town this week, and he'd heard me say so many good things about X-Men 97. He finally watched it this week, and I was like,
cry?
Well, I was like, how much did you have spoiled for you? He was like, somehow none of it. And I was like, what? How'd you get this far? And then
other people have different algorithms than we do, Rob.
Right. And I was like, just a warning, because I know you said you've had like kind of a complicated year. Just when episode 5 starts, just do a little self-check. Are you ready? And he's like, ready for what? It's like, just in general.
Yeah, just
and
be ready.
If you have any sense of like instability, just take the night off. And then come back to it. But yeah, anyway, I love the charging of the bus is really cool. Just like so many other things, Gambit's charged up. It still doesn't really do much, but then Magneto arrives.
Yeah, and then everybody's there. The X-Men arrive, the Acolytes are there, and Xavier is basically trying to tell Magneto, like, voice of reason, like, don't blow this thing up. And Magneto's like, fuck it, I'm going for it. And then it's not crystal clear really what Magneto did. I just got the impression he like shrunk it enough that it kind of like cracked it like it was like cracking a nut in the middle. That was my read on it, but it wasn't really clear how he beat this thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the end of X-Men 92 where it's like, what did Magneto do to Xavier's brain power thing? Sure. Superhero stuff.
Yeah.
I think if I had to like really like stretch it based on like what Magneto looked like he was doing to the relic before, like maybe there's some sort of like the spider projection thing had some sort of current or electricity to it, and that's what Magneto was able to kind of like affect in it. Or Magneto also has soul deleting powers.
No, it's not soul deleting powers. I guarantee you that one.
And that's when Xavier somehow suddenly has the knowledge that this giant spider thing was not the key to unlock Apocalypse or anything that Magneto thought. It was actually the Guardian against, not Apocalypse, that'd be impossible, but like the
Guardian of the doors, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, and now we're defenseless. It was like, well, you could have started by saying that this was a Guardian.
Yeah, you should have said that when you said don't destroy it. That would have been how not to bury the lead here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get a little glimpse of the shrine door gate or whatever that we saw Mesmero with at Apocalypse, and it just starts glowing, and at least one set of doors open. I'm assuming because they implied that there were more keys.
Yeah, I think we're under the impression there's one more key because there was 3 sets.
Yeah.
But they also point out that it was headed southeast, and if you know basic geography,
no, I don't.
God damn it, Rob. Southeast of London, it's not a perfect 45-degree angle like on a compass, but it is southeast, is Cairo.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Or it could be even further, but like, yes, there is a diagonal. So it's like, it would make sense that the Egyptian-themed guy had something to do with, that. But
yeah,
it's also like in a mountain, and I don't know enough about Egypt, but I don't remember seeing mountains in anything I know about Egypt, so who knows?
Sure, whatever. Yeah, no, I'm terrible with geography. Like, I'm one of those guys that when I'm like, so you're giving me directions on the phone or something, like head south. I'm like, tell me what building I'm left or right, and am I facing it or not?
Right.
Because I don't have that sense. Yeah.
So it ends on that door opening and very ominous and stuff like that. But I do think that it's because they've always said there were 3 keys, and I don't think the Combo Spider Relic counted as 2 of them. So.
Yeah. No. Combo Spider Relic's a less fun band name.
It feels a little more like emo than metal. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's like Dashboard Confessional, but like a little geekier.
Right. And the irony is I think we would do much better as an emo band than we would do as a metal band.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Whiny millennials? Definitely.
I mean, I could do Newfound Glory and Green Day and Weezer I can't do any damn it, we're an emo band, Rob.
So, I know we talked about this a
But we're called Cyclops Tears.
There you go.
Yep.
We talked about this last episode, how we were surprised that the rogues, like, purging all the souls from her mind episode was higher rated than this. Mm-hmm. I almost argue this was more interesting.
I thought this was a better episode. It had the big comic book feel to it. It felt like it was a major plot change because we're coming off of all of the Acolytes versus X-Men stuff from the end of last season into this season. And then Apocalypse just feels like a big build.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a stronger episode, but also, I don't know, there could just be more nerds who voted on the last episode than this one, so it could go either way.
Or there's like a joke that we're not in on.
Yeah.
Or it's rogue.
And, I mean, come on, it literally referenced the 5 originals together. That right there is like a 0.5 difference for me.
Yeah, that's why I totally missed that, but that was really cool that you pointed out, because they did have like so many iconic shots on there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and apparently there was even like one shot where like Bobby was making one of those ice structures that was a reference to X-Men #1 from 1963 and stuff like that. Like, we know they didn't have a Larry Houston on this team the way 92 and later 97 as a consulting producer on it was, but like somebody knew their shit with this episode. I got that vibe.
One of the producer's kids was like, "Dad."
He's like, "You just bought me these trading cards, so I need to show why they were worth it."
Yeah. Cool. Well, hope you enjoyed this visual episode, and now you got to see all the times JC had to deal with me facially.
Never say that phrase ever again.
And in case I didn't bring her up, but like for everybody that's been listening and hasn't seen like other social medias, this is Lucy. She's usually like our kind of alarm clock or producer. She's fine tonight for some reason. I think it's because like
she has not reacted until you literally just pet her. She has not moved the entire. They probably thought it was a fucking towel behind you.
She likes wearing this specific brand of hoodies, and I haven't, because it's been like 100 degrees here every day. I've been like, you cannot wear a hoodie in good conscience. But today it's like kind of cool enough, and she's been happy as a clam. So I'm gonna just close this out. I'm gonna interrupt her sleep so you can see her.
Our third member of the pod.
Hey friends, this is Lucy.
Dude, she's gonna stab you. She is not happy with you right now.
So, she's probably going to fall asleep right here. Thanks for joining us. If you have any thoughts, make sure to drop them in the comments for either the YouTube upload or official Instagram post about this episode if you like what you heard. We'd appreciate a rating on the podcast app you're choosing. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, maybe iHeartRadio. We haven't figured out if that's still real or not.
Yeah, probably.
Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, and CastBox.
And let us know, should we do more video? Let us know.
What do you got to say?
Lucy's not impressed.